Before we jump in, I just would love to spend like a quick few minutes going around. I think we have about 16 people total, but then minus the 3 of us. If we want to go around, if you want to have your video on, just so like we can all be a little community together, go for it. If you were not prepared to have your video on, that's cool too, because I understand that. But would love to just take a minute, and if everyone wants to like I can see everyone's initials, but I can't necessarily see their names right now. So if we want to just, I can call out people to introduce themselves and just say what their business is and where they stand on social media. Like, are they beginner? Are they looking for more tips and tricks, just so that we can all kind of ground ourselves? So if anyone wants to jump in, if not, I'll start calling out some initials for people to go through.
I'll go. Good morning. My name is Jazz.
Hi, Jazz.
I'm a local artist here in Baltimore. My social media game is, I would say beginner. I'm also currently working on actually becoming an LLC, so I'm kind of just starting out with all of this.
Very good. Thank you, Jazz. All right, we'll move on. ES. Anybody want to introduce yourself if you're ES?
Hi, I'm under ES, and my name is actually Laura Oldham, and I'm daughter. Good morning. And I would say my social media, like with my business, I've just become an LLC, and I'm a beginner with the social media.
Very good. Thanks for joining us today.
Be here. Thank you.
I see an M. Is anybody an M?
Hi, I'm the M. My name is Morgan. My business is Stellarium Jewelry, and I'm just a local jeweler in Baltimore. My social media presence is, or like, I don't know, I've been on Instagram for a while, and I'm less looking for Instagram tips, but more just like generally looking for marketing tips. But yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks for joining us, Morgan. All right, I see a DP.
That's me. Hi, I'm Debbie Phelps.
Hi, Debbie.
I am a product designer developer. I have a consulting business for the past 10 years, but I have recently launched my own Etsy shop, and I've been making masks like everybody else, but with what I think is a unique twist. And I also make my own bags, so I'm going to launch that soon. But I am really new. I'm not a social media user, so need some help with bringing people to me or to my Etsy site.
Awesome. Thanks for joining, Debbie.
Thank you.
I see an SS. Who is SS?
Oh, that's me.
Hi,
Sorry,
Sarah.
I was trying to figure out how to unmute myself. Hi, I'm Sarah. I am starting a swimwear company called Soleil. It's in production now, being made in Baltimore. And so I have a little bit of a social media going on, maybe like 4 posts at this point. So I'm just interested in how to use Instagram to kind of build up awareness of the swimwear brand.
Very good. Thanks for sharing, and thanks for joining. All right. Is there anyone else? I'm kind of jumping around on the different initials here.
I
so
would.
If you haven't
Hi.
introduced. Hello.
Hi. I'm Allison.
Hi, Allison.
See if I can. There. Hello.
Hello.
Tiger Lily. Hello, Tatiana. How's everybody? I'm Allison Fomich, and my business is Tiger Lily Shop Jewelry. I've been sort of navigating the COVID shutdown. My shop is inside Mount Vernon Marketplace. So I have a lot of touch and go because I'm inside a food hall, and I don't know what that means for like my business and my retail store, because we are also going to be shutting down for indoor dining this as of today. But the food hall is going to still be open. So I'm like in that space right now. So like we have people that can still come into the marketplace. So I have all these, you know, announcements and, you know, trying to make sure that my customers know what's going on with my business. So social media has been my outlet for that, of course. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and I've also been running like little promotions on Facebook. So I'm not like a novice, but I don't really know what I'm doing. So I'm here to learn.
Very good. Thank you for joining, Allison.
Oh, thank you.
I'm trying to remember who I jumped on first, but we'll go with Ellen because I can see you.
Hi, I'm Ellen. I'm the owner of Local Color Flowers. We are a floral design studio here in Baltimore City. We're in our 13th year of business. Our shop is currently closed for walk-in business, and we are still doing deliveries and weddings, although weddings, you know, that's another thing. And yeah, I use social media a lot, but have not really ever had like an overall strategy for the company's social media. So interested in learning about that.
Very good. Thanks for joining, Ellen. All right. Is there anyone else? I know we haven't gone through everyone, but I'm losing track of which initials I've.
I'll go. I'm JJ. It's Jatera Jones.
Hi, Jatera.
Hi. I just started a virtual assistant company, Lab Digital Solutions. So I don't have a social media page just ready to go yet, so I'm just trying to get some tips on what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited that you can join and be able to think through the strategy before you launch. Anybody else who would like to introduce themselves?
Hey, I'm Erin Allison. I'm the director of Hunt's Honey. I'm also supposed to have our Jordan, who actually does most of our online presence here, but it has been a crazy morning already, and that's why I don't have my beautiful face showing either, is because I am in and out and masked up and hair netted on and yeah, all over the place. So I feel like we have a pretty robust social media thing going on, and that, like I said, is all due to someone much younger and hipper than me doing that thing. But yeah, I mean, it's such a just a huge piece of sales and brand awareness and all of the things. So I feel like we can never know enough about how to strategize and get it all out there. So thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining, Erin. And yeah, I think social media is an ever evolving space, so there's always more to learn. All right, so I'm going to move this so I can see a little bit more. And as Tatiana mentioned, I'm going to try to stop and ask, check in on questions throughout this. I have little markers on here for me to remember to do that. But if you have any in the moment, you don't want to forget it, feel free to add that into the chat. And so that we can be sure to capture that, if not during this presentation, but then at the end. And by presentation, I want to say it's more of a workshop. So I do want it to be interactive, and if we have questions throughout, we'll make sure we can tackle those. Also, Tatiana had sent out a worksheet beforehand that I put together. I wanted you all to be able to walk away with tangible items and be able to remember certain items that you want to be able to work on or not work on. Or be able to work on and follow up on. So I have that. I'm going to reference that through this. And trying to see what else before I jump ahead of myself. I guess I'll take this, before I jump into the social media strategy, I'll take this time to introduce myself. So I'm Becky Stapley. I'm a marketing strategy consultant and a freelance photographer. So most of my experience is in marketing. So I've worked on established brands like McCormick and Company for quite a few years, and also startups. So if you remember Order Up, which was a food delivery service before Grubhub acquired them, worked with them as well. After that, I wanted to take my experience of national marketing campaigns and product launches and just managing multiple brands, and be able to help other people be able to create their social media strategy and also create content. So being able to, before I was doing photography on the side, wanted to be able to combine both my marketing experience and photography experience to be able to combine those together, whether I work with clients on one or the other or both. Another thing I also do is I'm a team member for the Beamer Creatives. So if you're not familiar with them, it's mainly an Instagram account, and we consider it a community platform and social media brand. We really just want to celebrate the small businesses, the makers, everyone who's creative and in Baltimore, and be able to share that about and just be able to connect people through that. So it's been a really cool team to be on, and had the opportunity over the past few years to work with the Orioles and Broadway Market and Hotel Revival and many others. And so we're constantly evolving that as well, but it's a brand that was built purely from social media first. So I feel like a lot of that applies here. And in general, I just wanted to note as we're going into this, I believe that social media is a relationship tool. So I don't believe in it being a purely sales tool. Yes, it can do sales, and all of the businesses here, I'm sure you're reliant on sales and making those. So being able to do that is important, but I think the relationship part comes first. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we go through. And then just for you all to know as well, this is my first time doing this from a workshop perspective. So I'm used to doing this as more of a one-on-one consult. So I'm trying to shove a lot into an hour and a half because I want to make sure that I'm giving as much value as possible for you guys. So there's going to be some parts that we go through a little bit more quickly, some parts that we dig into a little bit more. But then that's how I mentioned that there's also that worksheet so that you can mark down, like, this is something I want to look into more. So we're going to continue on. So here's an overview of what we're going to be going through today. So first, I want to touch on branding. And I know this is not a branding workshop, but from my perspective, branding is really the groundwork for your social media. If you don't have that, then you need to take a moment and go through that more so that you know what you're communicating through social media, who you're trying to reach, and that will help you have that focus. So we're going to go through these points a little more quickly than everything else, but we're going to talk about your target audience, your functional and emotional benefits that you bring them, your brand personality, and your visual identity, and how those all work for social media. So then we're going to, once we just ground ourselves in that, we're going to move on into what I consider the success formula for social media. Then we're going to talk about establishing social media goals, because if you want that success, you need to know how to measure that success. From there, we're going to talk about organizing content ideas. So this is often something I hear from clients, is that they just don't know what to post about, or they feel like they're sharing the same thing over and over again. So I'm going to give you a way to organize that and define content pillars for yourself and ideas for topics that would fall under each, so that you'll never reach a point where you're just like, I don't know what to post today, because you will have a whole list of items that you can. And then from there, we're going to go into an editorial and content process. And so I have a little flow chart that we can go through step by step and just give tips of how I handle it for clients, how I suggest other people handling it. Because often that's another step too that people get stuck on, is, all right, they've got these ideas, they know what they want to share, but then you're not a social media marketer. This is not your dedicated job. You're running a business, so trying not to get stuck on certain steps of the process. From there, we're going to talk about one of those steps that's really important, and that's the importance of engaging. And then after that, I'm just going to give a quick reference of some social media tools that I use that are free. There's paid versions as well, but figured we can start with the free ones that are really good and can help you a lot. And again, we'll end with some questions, but I'll try to work that through this whole process. So next up, so as we're talking about branding, why is that important? It's really important to have consistent branding because it is the groundwork of your social media strategy. It helps your customers know what to expect. It helps them emotionally connect to you or your product. It can motivate them to buy, and then also can create that loyalty. So all good things. The first really important part about branding is just knowing who you're talking to. So here, let me just move something real quick so I can see a little bit better here. So knowing who you're talking to, and this is one of the questions I have on the worksheet, or if you don't have the worksheet, just take a note that your target audience, and just try to think this through. Who is buying your products currently? Who do you want buying your products? And then therefore, who are you communicating to? And often when I ask this question, people just say, oh, well, anyone who wants to buy, or anyone who wants to be a client. And well, yes, like at the end of the day, you might do that. It doesn't help with how you're communicating to them, or how to attract who you want to be your client, or who do you want to be your customer. And so I really encourage people to try to define it into 1 to 3 categories, really think through what are the values of your target audience, what age might they be, and it could be a variety, and you might be able to break it up. What location are they in? Are they specifically in Baltimore or Maryland, or because you're online, are you all over the US or all over the world? Try to think through what hobbies, like what relates to your product, and or what are they doing with your product? What's their income? What's their job? Just try to like create a picture of who this person is. You can even give them fake names so that you can like remember that person as you're doing anything. And then also not only thinking where are they in real life, but then where are they on social media? So are they on Instagram? Are they on Facebook? Are they Pinterest? Because you should meet them where they are. And so that's, I'm not going to dive too much into each specific platform through this, but that's something to think about. Is just, you might not be able to do them all, but if you can do 1 or 2 really well, especially the ones where they are, then that's what's really important. All right, next up, we're going to talk about functional and emotional benefits. Oops, sorry, clicked too soon. Functional and emotional benefits. So this is something that, what does your product or your service bring to them? So from a functional standpoint, this is like, what does it do? So what attributes or features does your product provide for your customers? An example of this, maybe you make dresses, you have pockets on every dress, or maybe you make candles and it's how many hours of burn time. Or if you make a drink, it's literally thirst quenching. So that's just very functional of what does your product do for your customer. Another way to think about it is what emotional benefits do you bring? So how do you want your customer to feel when they use your product? Because often that's what hooks people for loyalty. And so that's, maybe your product helps them feel really trendy or makes them feel creative, which just gives that feel good of being able to support a small business or a local business, which is a big thing for when people do turn to small business, because they want to be able to support people in their community. So think through what functional benefits and what emotional benefits, try to take some notes of what those are and remember those, because those are the things that you want to be able to share about and communicate to them. And then next up, we've got the reasons to believe. So now that you have these functional and emotional benefits, why should anyone believe that you, specifically your business, can deliver these functional emotional benefits? So this might be your education or experience. So say you make children's clothing. Why are you the person that they should trust to buy this clothing? Maybe it's because you're a mom of 4 and you know what kids need and you know what a parent needs. Or maybe it's the quality of your materials and where you're sourcing them from. Maybe it's your unique design that makes you different than others. So just think through each of those benefits and why you can deliver on that. And again, mark that down and remember that for what you're sharing, because you want to be able to communicate why you can do that for the person and why they should purchase from you. Right. And next up, so again, we're going through these slides really quickly because again, it's the branding and this is not a branding workshop. So stand by with me, but the brand personality. So this is how you wish to be perceived. And often what I really like about working with small businesses is that your brand personality is often your personality and you're bringing that forth, or maybe it isn't and you're able to like keep those separate and be able to understand how to create your brand separately. But I'm just going to go through and kind of list these out, and I just want you to take some quick notes as we go through these and mark down any words that really resonate with you. So is your product or your company, is it simple versus complex? Is it youthful versus established? Or is it subtle versus bright? Are you classic or contemporary? Is it friendly or authoritative? Are you an economical product or an expensive, more luxury product? Is it playful versus serious? Are you more mainstream or are you unconventional? Are you industrial or natural? Are you approachable versus elite? Is it more casual or is it more elegant? Is your product or your service more refined or is it strong? Is it feminine versus masculine? And so these are kind of like on a little sliding scale here. Just imagine that you had a little slider that you can go back and forth one way or the other. And some other examples are, do you wish to be perceived as down to earth, honest, original, trendy, exciting, unique, reliable, confident, glamorous, outdoorsy? You can see that there's words all over the place, and you can come up with your own. You can Google list of brand personality traits and go through these, but I really suggest just writing down ones that resonate with you, and then if you can, narrow it down to a max of 5. Because if you try to go more than that, then you're just trying to communicate too many things. So you really want to narrow in 5 things, and then also think about, all right, I've got this brand personality, I've got my functional emotional benefits, and I have my target audience. Do these things all connect together? And if they don't, and they feel like they're not quite like meshing, then maybe take a little more time to see like how can you tweak something to make sure that your brand personality is meeting your target audience's needs with these functional and emotional benefits. And then the last slide I have for branding before we jump into more of the social media side of things is your visual identity. So these are elements that help you communicate what you want your customer to feel. So we talked about what you want your customer to feel, but now visually, how do they get that? And so the aspects that go into that are, it's your logo, it's your color palette, it's your photography, your style photography, the fonts you might use, and then packaging. And so a lot of you are product based, and so what are they receiving it in? So I did want to pull up 2 examples of visuals that I feel like from a social media perspective, they really have it narrowed in on their brand personality and how they're bringing that to life visually, specifically on Instagram. So the first example is Bespoke Benny, and you can see she has these beautiful colors, and she brings that through in her Instagram stories across the little dots across there. And then all of her posts, you can see that while she has bright colors, they feel like they all go together, and she focuses on one bright color for each post. She has this consistency of these lamp posts that go across, even though they're slightly different based on the product. So I think that's a beautiful way that she visually shows that, but then also the image she uses for when people find her account, she not only has her logo in there, but she has a picture of herself. And so I think that's really important. Like if you are the face of your business, I love that she did both of those, because people are looking for her and they want to know her. And we'll dig into more of that when we're talking about content. Another example is Odin Leather. And so you can see it's a little bit more rugged, which relates more to leather goods. And then they also play that out in the colors that they use. So if you look across their story highlights there, they're using similar colors that relate to their logo. A lot of those colors are just the leather-based colors that then relate to all the images that they have. And they have a variety of different images there. And I also, again, love that they have images of themselves with behind the scenes. And that will be something we'll talk about in the content as well. And so I'm going to take this opportunity. Again, we just flew through a bunch of branding, but I want to make sure that we get to the chunk of this, which is social media. If you feel like you needed to dig into this more and want help with that, you can always reach out to me after this and we can talk about branding packages I may have. But I would love to take a minute just to take a breather and see if anybody has questions, or if anybody wants to share what's working really well for them in one of these aspects, whether it's their brand personality or their target audience. So feel free to add into the chat or just jump in and start chatting away to me.
All right, so I did have a question. So like with these branding scenarios here, you have like really consistent photography with them.
Yeah.
Now, you know, maybe we'll get to this, but you know, like in my, let's say, Facebook account, I use all types of different images. And I'm just wondering, maybe that's partly where I'm going wrong, because I'm not staying consistent to my brand.
Yeah, I think that's something that would be worth evaluating. I think there's something to be said about a variety. So it is good to have a variety of images so that when they look at your Instagram, it's not all the same thing.
Right.
So for example, Bespoke Benny here, like she has the more straight on product shot of the lamp, but then she has other ways that she's showing her product. And then same with the leather here, is that there's a variety as well. But what's consistent here, that's why I picked these two, is there is a color theme that goes through this.
Right.
And then also they might have like, they consistently do a flat lay, like an overhead flat lay shot, however many. So find like, maybe it's worth looking at your Instagram or your Facebook post and see what are ones that worked really well, that got more attention, or what like shows your product best, and just come up with a little equation for yourself of like, here's a way that you repeat and do the same like product images every time.
Okay, yeah, honestly, I really never quite thought about this. I mean, I'm a graphic designer, I do print work, and of course you think of all that, but I haven't really thought of that online.
Yeah, it's just thinking about it, of what other visual ways can you make it consistent so that your target customer knows what to expect every time they'll start relating what they see online with what they would expect to receive in person.
Okay, so just another question, like if your colors aren't really consistent, like, you know, for example, I do web design, so maybe some photos I put up are people's websites that are all different colors, you know, and different. To make it consistent, would there be something, you know, like let's say I did put a little like a red banner at the bottom with my logo and a little blurb that would make it consistent throughout?
Yeah, I think that's and that you're actually kind of hitting on one thing that let me look at my notes real quick. Just a great way to create consistency is finding what is that similar element that goes across and ties them all together.
Okay.
And so whether that is like, I'm thinking just photography now, but like maybe you have a plant in every photo, you have a book in every photo. If it's design and more graphics, is it that, is there a banner in every single one? Or do you have like a white border around each one so that that's the consistency across? But you're on the right track of thinking what's a consistent way that you can show yours.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you, Karen. All right, so we're gonna move along. If anybody has any other questions about branding, feel free to put them in the chat and we can make sure that we have enough time at the end. I just want to make sure I'm getting to all the content for you guys. All right, let me move this out of the way. Onward. So social media, we're going to dig into what you all are here for. And so what why I'm so drawn to social media is that I believe that it helps with the customer journey. So that marketing journey, that customer journey, however you might phrase it. I have just a very simple wheel here of how it can connect together. And so some of you marked that or said that you wanted to use social media for awareness. And so that's really important. That's a way that you can find more people online, not necessarily in person, especially during this time that maybe you're not going to as many markets or seeing as many people in person. So that makes social media really important for that awareness, which then goes into engagement. You can use social media to engage with people and chat with them and build those relationships, which then if they are aware of your product, they like you, and they know that they're going back and forth with you, they might be more likely to purchase as well. And so it just continues and all works together. And if they purchase your product, then they might be sharing that on their social media, which brings more people awareness, and then it just continues from there. And then here's what I consider the social media success formula. And so it's less of a science or math and more of an art and how they all work together. And so we are going to talk about quality content is a big piece of this. So you want to make sure when people are coming to your Facebook page or your Instagram or Pinterest, whatever you may be focusing on, you have quality content there, and that's why they're going to follow you. Also, that community engagement aspect that I talked about, and we're going to dig into that more as well, but that's really important. If you're just putting quality content out there and just talking, but you're not going back and forth with them, then people might not want to be a part of your community. And then another piece of that is just continuing to have that follower growth, because then those are the new customers that you can bring into the mix. So these all work together. You can't just focus on one solely. So you have to be doing them together. The next thing I wanted to talk about was social media goals. And so that is something that if you have that worksheet or if you just want to take notes, as I go through these, try to think of what would be a goal for yourself, because we talked about this success formula, but in order for you to have success, you have to define it for yourself, because what you're trying to achieve might be different than what other people are trying to achieve, and you can't define success unless you can't achieve success unless you define what that means for you. And so here's just a chart from Hootsuite. Hootsuite is a great tool for publishing. They also give a lot of resources to people learn more, but they polled their customers to see what are the goals of their organization. This is not specific to makers or creatives, so take that with a grain of salt. But I'm gonna dig into a few of these that I thought were really important and could be relevant to you. And so this first one, build brand awareness. And so a few of you mentioned this as well. So brand awareness is how many people know that you exist. And this is maybe specifically, I know you exist on social media as well. And then not only that, understand what kind of products or services you offer. So making it very clear ways to measure this. And so I know a lot of you are creatives, but some of you might have that other side of your brain too, of the analytic side, or maybe you don't, and you want to know how can you measure this. So ways to measure this, the mentions, your brand mentions, whether you're tagged in it or you're not, because then that helps more people become aware of your company. And then there's also shares, so they're sharing it to friends, they're sharing it to family. There's post reach. You can look in on Instagram and Facebook, and they have great built-in analytics that you can start with. And if you like that more, you can always find another tool to dig into your analytics even more. Another thing is impressions. And again, that's in your analytics as well. A next goal that you could have is building and managing an engaged community. And so we've mentioned community many times so far, but it's really important. So you're creating this community of people that want to hear what you're doing. They want to hear the latest news. This is really important for just your regular sales, but also really when you launch a new product. And so blanking on the name, I think it was Debbie, you mentioned you want to be launching bags. And so being able to build this community beforehand so that when you launch that product, you have these people who want to support you, whether it's them purchasing it themselves or they're going to share it to somebody else. And so key metrics around this are your follower growth. So being able to consistently grow your followers, because again, more followers, those are more likely to be people that can be your customers. But what's even more important is your engagement rate. So you could have a ton of followers, but nobody's commenting, nobody's liking, nobody's clicking through to buy these products. And so therefore, what's the point of followers? And at the end of the day, there's people out there that have thousands and thousands of followers and they might have purchased them. And so therefore, they're not engaging with your product. So what's the point? So engagement rate, this is when you combine, you're gonna take your comments and your likes, combine those together, you're gonna divide them by the number of followers and multiply that by 100. That gives you a percentage. And so you're then able to compare your growth over time and your engagement over time. So then say you only had 100 followers in the beginning and you had this engagement rate, then you look at it and however many months that you've grown, you have this number of followers and you've grown your engagement rate. Something to note there is that naturally when you have a larger audience, your engagement rate will go down. For Instagram specifically, off the top of my head, I know a 3 to 6% engagement rate is good. Anything over 6% is really good. Facebook is a lower percentage engagement rate, but you can look that online too and just see like what are some averages. But this is something that you can keep track of yourself and be able to see over time, like, the time I'm putting into social media, is it worth it? Am I growing these things? Another thing is shares and saves. We talked about those, and link clicks. So are they engaged? Are they interacting with what you're putting out there? Next thing is identifying and nurturing leads. And so, all right, yeah, you're getting new followers, but they might not purchase your product the first time. So this is a great place. Again, this is I consider social media a relationship tool, not a sales tool. And so if you can nurture those leads, that social media is a place to do that. And then increase sales. And so this is great because it directly impacts your bottom line, and you can measure it as well. So being able to look at your click-through rates and your sales, and so it's different on Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest, depending on what you use. There's different ways to measure it and to track it as well. Next up, it's a great place to deliver customer service. So before, people would call or they would send an email, but now people are turning to social media. It's a place that they connect with their friends and family. It's now a place that they connect with brands, and it is a place that they go to then ask questions if they have issues or they are inquiring about a certain aspect of your product or your service. So being able to use social media for that, if someone leaves a comment or sends you a DM, being able to answer those, but then also keep track of that yourself. So that's something that there aren't necessarily metrics specific around, but you can keep track of, like, all right, I've gotten this question quite a few times on social media. Maybe it's something that you should address in social media as a post, or maybe it's something that you need to fix on your product or change about your product or communicate to people. And then another goal would be to gain customer or market insights. And so this is, again, like, it's just a great place to like be able to listen. Consider it like a feedback loop. So not only are you putting stuff out there, but people are providing it back to you. And so keep track of those comments, of those DMs, or if you're trying to launch a new product, take advantage of the polls or questions that you can use both on Instagram and Facebook, and be able to get that real-time feedback. And people feel a little bit more invested in you and your product as well. And so I'm gonna take this moment, let me pop back up here, the chat, and also like feel free to just jump in and ask a question if you have any questions about social media goals before we move along. All right, no questions? Cool. All right then, I'll keep on moving. And let me just pull up my screen, my side screen here. It helps keep me on track to make sure I'm getting everything that we need to talk about today. All right, so next thing that I really enjoy talking about is content pillars. So what I like about social media is that you get to share, and it's, as a photographer, I'm a very visual person. And then it's also a way to story tell and to connect with people. And that's why we're all so drawn to it, is because we all crave that connection. But what are we sharing on there? So this is often a topic that I get from clients, is just that they know they need to post, but they don't know what to post about. And maybe it's the end of the day and they're like, I still haven't posted for like, it's been a few days, it's been a few weeks. That's totally normal. So what is important is for you to sit down and come up with a strategy and to really think through, like, here's a list of all the things that I want to post about. And what's really important about these content pillars is that not only does it help from that organizational side, that you're making sure that everything that you're spending your time and energy, your very valuable time and energy on, comes back to your business and your business goals. But it also provides this variety to your followers. So they're not hearing the same thing over and over again. They're not hearing you say like, buy, 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 sell, sell, like buy this, all this. And so, because that turns them away. So they want to learn a little bit more about your brand. They want to learn more about you. Again, like, you're a small business, and the reason people like sports business is because they're supporting you. So don't be afraid to share more about yourself. So I'm going to dig into each of these content pillars. Usually when I'm doing a one-on-one consult, we're digging into it a little bit more specific, custom for you. But this time I took a little bit time to just come up with these proposed content pillars that could work for all of your businesses. And so this first one is branded content. And so consider branded content to be the story behind your business. So you might be sharing about your products or services, but you're not directly sending them to your shop. You're not necessarily obviously trying to sell your products. It's more about telling the story. And so some examples of this are, is it a work in progress? Is it your workspace? Maybe it's a collaboration with another company, in which we are doing another workshop on August, I believe it's August 7th, that we're going to talk about collaborations and partnerships. So if you're interested in that, we can sign up for that one as well. And then, or is it a contest, a giveaway? Is it a takeover or feature? Or UGC, which is user generated content. So somebody posted a picture of your product and how they're using it. Reshare that, it's great. Or maybe you have a team member or a supplier, like somewhere that you sell, a store that you sell your product at. Maybe it's influencer you're working with, or someone who's just like your #1 fan. Offer to do a takeover or feature them. And again, we talked about the polls and surveys being a great way to get some feedback from your customers. Consider that part of your branded content. And so I put 3 examples down here that I found. One is a Pure Home Clean. They're like cleaning supplies for your home, but they have provided other ways that you can reuse the bottles. So I think they figured out that their type of customer likes to reuse things. And so they wanted to come up with different ways to do that. So it's not them trying to sell their product here, but they're really showing how you can reuse their product. Another one here is Goodnight Darling, and they are that bath soak in the upper left-hand corner. And so this is a flat lay, I believe probably by a partner or collaboration that they did. It shows other products, it's beautiful, but then there are products in there as well. So it's not obviously trying to sell, but it shows this general vibe that they're going for. And then, as many of you may know her, but Anyhow Paper Cuts, I had a pleasure of working with her a few years ago on her social media strategy. And what I love seeing is her behind the scenes. And so what I find so valuable about her product is just the time and the intricate work that it takes to do it. And a lot of people might not think about that when they just see the end product. So if you can show a little bit more of that work in progress, it really shows the value of your product. All right. Next up, we're going to talk about your sales content. So yes, this is a place that you need to share about your products, your services. You need to directly promote those at some point. So these are different ways that you can do it. So maybe you feature a different product every week. Maybe you show them in use, a little bit more lifestyle photography. Maybe it's a flat lay or styled scene. It could be, again, this is another place that user generated content can be used. It's a picture that somebody took with your product. You show it there, and then you have a link to where it goes. This can also be somewhere that you're doing offers and sales. Maybe it's shop announcements. So for instance, at Mount Vernon Marketplace, you have to use social media as a way to communicate what changes are being made, what can they expect. And then while there's not as many markets and festivals going on or special events right now, remember this for the future, post-COVID, being able to communicate where your customers can find you. So I gave 3 examples here. Some of you may be familiar with White Tea, as I believe they're a part of Made in Baltimore. And so here's a beautiful photo they have featuring one of their teas. Nikki and Mallory, here she makes bags, but she also does tote bag classes. And so here she was using social media as a way to announce her class. And then there's Ponte Waxes here, so they do candles. They use this as an opportunity to share what are the top sellers, because people like knowing what other people are buying, and then that influences, and it's the ultimate peer pressure of I want to have what everybody else has. So lean into that. We're going to move on to the third pillar. Third content pillar is your personal content. So I can't reiterate this enough. Often with clients, they do not want to put themselves in front of the camera. They do not want to share about themselves, but I very much encourage you to do so. So your brand is like, your company is you. You are a part of it. People want to know that there's a real live person behind that business. And that's one of the main reasons people love supporting small business. So this could be anything from just your everyday food, travel, shopping hauls, or your pets. People love pets. Get some water real quick. I'm talking too much. But this could be places or things that inspire you. Maybe it's other makers that you admire and just you want to be able to share love back to them and show who you're connected with. This can also be your values and the movements you support. And I think this is especially important at this time, and just knowing how to communicate and talk to things that are important to you and that you believe should be important for your customers as well, or it's a way to connect with them. And so this is something that I've been seeing more questions about, of just how to integrate topic of racial justice into your business, and is this a place to talk about it? And I believe it is. And so just trying to figure out how that works in, a way that it feels authentic to you, a way that it feels right for your customers. And these are important topics that need to be talked about. So I did have one example in the bottom right. It's Rayo and Honey. She makes these beautiful signs that you can purchase. And this is a picture of her children using these signs, going out and protesting. And so being able to show behind the scenes of what she is doing in a way that feels authentic to her. And then moving on, it's just also pictures of you. So please do not be afraid to show your face. People want to see it. They can connect and relate to it more. So example here, we have Knit Soy Metal, and we have her, she's showing herself and she is cheersing to a new year, but then also giving just kind of a recap of like all the things that she's done and things that she's achieved, and people want to celebrate with you. So give them that opportunity to do so. Another example here is Cozy Town Flowers, and she's just showing a little bit more about herself. Her caption talks about just how her summer has been different, and with her having the kids home with her, that's something a lot of people can relate to right now. So right now my kid's upstairs taking a nap, and so just knowing that there's another small business owner who they're balancing their business and their personal life and just making it a little bit more real. So I'm going to stop here again and just take a moment. If you have any questions about these content pillars, why are the content pillars important? If you have any questions about content topics that fall underneath of them or anything relating to that, please jump in if you feel more comfortable with the chat or just asking a question. All right, no questions. We're going to move along then. Let me move this. So we're going to dig into our social media process. So as I mentioned, this is often a place that people get stuck. So we're going to talk through how I suggest this workflow. So this is one of the things when I was at McCormick, I was part of a team called the commercialization team, and we just helped think through processes to make them most efficient for the company. And so I worked with the marketing team there to kind of just map out how long it takes each stop and what are the different aspects that go into it. So it's easy to be like, I need to post on social media, but really digging into what are all the steps to do that. So I'm going to talk about each of those. So we have, first step is planning. So plotting your content mix. So we just talked about those 3 content pillars. We talked about here are all the topics that you could talk about. The next natural question is, well, how much do I talk about one versus the other? And so there is a rule of thirds. So if you're a photography person, ignore, it's not that same rule of thirds. it's a different rule of thirds. And so 1/3 is that you should be promoting your business. And so that's your sales content. So you need to make sure that you are selling, because that is what you're there for. But make sure you're not just selling, because people will unfollow because they just will feel like you're just using them for their sales. Another third should be what we just talked about, your branded content. And so that's supporting your business story. And this could be whether it's sharing your unique content or you're curating other content to help bring your brand together, sharing ideas, or maybe it's testimonials of how people have used your product. And then the last third would be engaging with your followers and building that personal brand. So it's that personal content. So just thinking through, you can plot out like, here are the 3 pillars, and I should do 1/3 of each. So next up in this process would be ideating and creating. And this is the part that I really enjoy. And so, but can be intimidating for other people. Or maybe because you are creative, you have these streaks of ideas, but then you're not sure what to do with them. So what I recommend doing here is sitting down once a month, or maybe for you it's once a quarter, whatever works best, and taking a look at the calendar. What are some upcoming holidays or events, seasonal things, upcoming goals? Create a list of this planned content and try to do this in advance, as much in advance as possible. So for instance, August is coming up, mid-July, it'd be a great time to sit down and think through what are the things you want to share, because then that gives you time to actually create the post, to schedule the post. If you need to take any photos, if you need to source anything else, it gives you a little bit more time. And then from there, you're going to create. And so once you have, all right, you have the topics you want to talk about this coming month, now you have to actually write the post. So find a flow that works for you. This can be difficult. It's hard to schedule creative time often. And so for me, I know that like if I'm starting to have a bunch of ideas, then I'll take some time and start writing them down. And like just, so that's my tip to you, is just when you're feeling inspired, use that opportunity, just let the ideas flow. And try to start with the idea or the story you want to share, and then write the caption, and then find a photo that goes with it. So often people will start with like, I have this photo and I want to share this photo. And then they're like, now I need to create a story about it. So it makes it a little bit more forced. So again, just thinking of it from topic first. What do you want to share? What do you want to communicate? And then put the post together. Next up in this flow, we have scheduling, we have publishing, and engaging. And so I wanted to share a few examples of scheduling tools and publishing tools, just so you can see what they look like and know that there is a variety out there of so that you can find what works for you. And so this top piece here, this is a tool called Later, and you can upload your photos into it. You can keep it as like a content library, or what they call a media library. And then you can schedule across, and you can create these posts, type them out, and schedule them on this calendar. You can see visually where they fall. You can also use, there's a preview button for Instagram. They'll show you what your feed would look like if these all published. So coming back to that visual identity and consistency, you're able to see what it would look like before it's posted. And you can also look at it from a month standpoint. The bottom left here, maybe you're more of a Google Calendar kind of person, and you'd like to see it like, and it also helps, it makes it easier to be able to look at your Google Calendar and say like, I have an event on this time, I have this on this time, and you can kind of schedule them across. So find what works for you. And then the bottom right is you create a Google document or maybe a spreadsheet in Excel. Personally, I like to start there. Or I actually start like pen and paper first, creating ideas. And then I convert it into this Google document where I can map it out and say, this post is on this day, this is on this day, etc. Then I actually write the post, and then I use Later to schedule the post. So there's different ways. You can Google social media templates, like publishing templates, content templates, editorial templates. There's so many out there that you can use. So let me dig into this a little bit more. Scheduling, the schedule and publish part of this. A question I often get is, how often should I be posting? My number one answer is as often as you can consistently post quality content. So if I say you need to post 5 times a week, and that means then you're just putting out as like 5 not so great posts, then what's the point? So a general recommendation, if you want to keep it consistent, is to be able to do 3 times a week. Seems achievable. It's not every single day, but you can sit down and do that. If for you, if it's only once or twice a week, that's cool too, as long as you're taking that time to have those quality posts. But consistency is important, as that is part of Instagram and Facebook's algorithm, is making sure that having that consistency. When is the best time to publish these? And so again, that's something that you can Google and find, like, here are all the recommended times. But as we all know, everyone's life has kind of been flipped upside down. Our normal routines are no longer exist. Many of us are not going into offices, and therefore we're not checking our phone at the same time we were. And so I put a link here. So it's the searchenginejournal.com. They posted more recently of, like, they did a little more research around it recently of when people are on their phones, because we're more likely on our phones throughout the whole day, especially people who are home more than they were before. And then the third thing is, I just want to reiterate, why is it important to schedule? And so it can seem like a lot to sit down, take time away from your business and sit down and schedule these things, and just carving that out of your schedule is tough. But I need you to trust that this extra effort up front is so worth it. And kind of think about it as when you're creating your products, often people might batch aspects of it, because you have that efficiency of maybe you're cutting out this one piece. And so it's much more efficient to then cut this one piece over and over and over again versus making this product from start to finish. So thinking about from a marketing standpoint, social media standpoint, is what can you batch together and make it so that you can be more efficient with your time. And so this is something that you can batch together, instead of at the end of the day being like, oh, I need to post, and spending a half hour to an hour of just like, oh, I needed this and that and that. What if you were to combine that all together for the entire month into one time, so that you sat down and had them scheduled and they went out and you just look like a pro, and you don't, the worry is off your shoulders. So I very much encourage you to dedicate the time to do that. The other aspect here is engaging. And so I've mentioned it multiple times so far. We're going to talk about it even more after this social media process, but it's just, I wanted to show where it falls into this flow, is making sure that after you schedule and publish, make sure you're going in and engaging with people. And so I would recommend dedicating, whether it's 10 minutes per day or 1 hour per week, to engage with your followers, your clients, your colleagues. This is the biggest way that you can grow authentically. And then we have a question from Ellen, but I'm going to go through maybe 1 or 2 more slides and take a break for questions. So hold tight there. Next up, so engaging. And then we have here's just like, this is something that you could print out or just keep in mind as you create and publish each post. Does it hit all these things? And so does this topic fall under one of these content pillars? If it doesn't, then is it really meeting your business needs and your business goals? And is it worth spending your time on? Does this speak to your target audience's functional needs or emotional needs? If it doesn't, if there's a way to mix that in there, do it. Does it exude your brand personality? Does it represent your visual identity? Another part that I want to hit on is, does it educate, entertain, engage, or inspire? These are 4 reasons people come to social media and share on social media. So if you can mix one of these ways into your post, that would be important. So educating more about your product, educating about your industry, engaging people, inspiring them. And then making sure the last checkbox here is making sure that you have relevant hashtags for your specifically Instagram posts, so that more people can find you. And the last step before we jump into some questions is making sure that you're measuring and learning. And so a lot of people get to this point where they get the post out there and then they go do whatever they need to do, get back to your business. And you need to make sure that you're measuring and learning so that you can start this over for the next month or the next quarter. And so just to touch on those briefly, because you could dig into analytics a lot more than what I'm going to do here, but making sure you're just coming back to those goals, those social media goals that you created. Reflect on those before you plan the next month and try to see, what did you learn in this past month? What post did really well? What post didn't do well? There's various reasons that it did well or not, but try to learn from that each time so that when you start that next month, you're gonna do it even better than you did the month before. And so again, just a quick overview of the process here. I'm going to stop for some questions. We have here from Ellen, how much should you rely on social media in your overall marketing strategy? That's a good question. I think that really depends business to business. There are some businesses that do really well on social media, and that you get a lot of references from it, and it's a naturally shareable product. And so you want to make sure that, like, if that is for you, then use social media. If your service or product doesn't naturally fit into social media and you're using it more of just like, here's some awareness, or like people often use social media right now, instead of going to your website, they find you on social media first. So you need to have a good presence, because it can often be that first impression. So I wish I had a better answer for you, Ellen, of like how much you should rely on it, but that's where it comes back to those goals and this measure and learn part. So if you have these goals and you have these metrics you want to do, then you look at it every month. Are you achieving these things? And then are you getting sales from this? If you continue to get sales, then you should continue to dedicate time, and you can kind of feel it out as you go along, and it might build as you go from there. We have another question here from Karen. How long should a post be? You're welcome, Helen. How long should a post be? Is there a recommended number of words? I see Facebook posts that seem very long. And yes, that is something that is kind of a trend now. And so there used to be it still exists, the world of blogs. And so blogs were our long form content. People would check in on blogs more often. Now that social media is so much bigger, people don't want to leave Instagram, they don't want to leave Facebook, and even LinkedIn is now getting into longer form content as well. They want to stay in what they're doing. And so Instagram, and then you're referencing Facebook, is that people are using it almost like a microblog, and are able to tell stories. And so I wish I knew off the top of my head the words and characters that how many words or characters that's optimal for your posts. But you can Google that, and there's a lot of resources that are like based off of like lots of research that they've looked into. Here's the optimal length that you should use. So don't be afraid of long posts. Maybe not every post is a long one, but don't be afraid to tell more of a story. And then that gives me one more thought, is like when you're telling a longer form, often the best way to communicate so that people don't get lost is to structure it as what, why, and how. And so what are you talking about? Just make sure that they know immediately what you're going to be talking about, because then they decide, is this relevant to me or is this not relevant to me? If it is, they're going to continue reading. So what, then it's why. Why is this important? Why are you talking about this? And then how. And so again, this depends on what your topic you're talking about, but how they can purchase your product, how you create your product, etc. So it's a great way to, if you're not used to writing, just think about it as what, why, how. We have another question from Elizabeth. Where do you find the metrics on Instagram? And so one of the important things here is that you need to make sure that your Instagram is a business account, and so that you can have those analytics. And let me just jump on my phone really quick so I make sure I'm giving the right recommendations where to find it. So I'm not sure if you can see this, but in the top right, there is 3 little bars. And from there, you can kind of go in, and there's an Insights tab. And you can look at your content, you can look at your activity. It even shows like the accounts reached. You can look at your audience, how much growth you're having, where they're located, age, gender. But the most important thing is that you have to have a business account, and it's really easy to switch that over and have those analytics moving forward. Are there any other questions? I just want to do a time check here. It's 11:12. We have a little bit of we have about a little over 15 minutes. And I want to touch on 2 more topics. We talked about engaging this whole time, so I want to make sure that I talk about engaging. All right, next slide. So I have it both brand awareness and engagement tips because I feel like they go hand in hand. And so as you're growing your awareness, you want to make sure that you are engaging. And so a lot of people are always looking like, what's the best way that I can grow my account? How can I get more followers? And there is not just a easy way to do that immediately. Coming back to that success formula in the beginning, you got to have that quality content and that community engagement to then have that follower growth. And so the number one way to grow your account is for you to start that conversation. So you need to go out and find them. And what's so beautiful about social media is that you can do it. You can do it from the couch, you can do it from your bed. You can just go in, hop into the app, find that search button, especially in Instagram, find your community. You can do that by looking at hashtags. You can look at the Made in Baltimore hashtag. You can look at the Be More Creatives hashtag. You can find other brands or influencers that have a similar audience that you have. And so maybe it's a product that has a similar aesthetic. So it's very likely that their followers are going to like what you're putting out there as well. And so go out and find them, follow them, comment on their photos, like their photos, because every time you do that, they receive a notification and they see your name, and their natural curiosity, especially if it's a follow or a comment, is that they're going to click and find you, and they're going to be more likely to follow you because before they might not have known about you. So a tip here is create a list of some complementary businesses. Like you can look at the Made in Baltimore program, look at those businesses, and just create a list of them, whether it's putting into an Excel sheet, into a notes on your phone, whether you create a saved folder in Instagram, just so that they're quickly clickable and you can go through. And once a day, once a week, just dedicate time. Again, is it 10 minutes a day? Is it 1 hour per week? That's really all it takes. That's not a lot of time. And so just go through and post, follow them, like them, comment, share, and just show that love. And that's the way that you can grow on there. And it's a great way right now to be able to connect with other people because we're not being able to do that in person. And then I mentioned here, find a complementary account and start with engaging with people who engage with their posts. So shameless plug here again is the Be More Creatives. People who follow the Be More Creatives, the reason they're following them is because they want to learn about other small businesses. They want to learn about other creatives, artists, people in Baltimore. So they're all just there waiting for you. So go through, see who are the people that like and comment on these posts the most often, and start following them. Or other examples, if you want to find Sukasa, if you have a home good, that's a great spot to start. Or Station North Tool Library, find different places or different hashtags and go find your ideal audience. Next up here, I want you to make it easy for them to engage with you. And so this coming back to talking about the captions, you need add a call to action. So whether that is, hey, save this post for later, share this post with a friend who likes whatever, tag a friend who likes this. I'm just gonna look at my notes right here real quick because I want to make sure I'm hitting on the points that I want to. Just to make it really easy for them to do, because how often have you scrolled past the post and just not engaged with it? So you want to get your followers in the habit of engaging with you so that when they see you every time, they're going to be more likely to do it. Because the importance of that is not only are you creating that community, but you're working with the algorithm. So Instagram algorithm and Facebook algorithm, the more people that comment, save, share, tag, especially immediately when that post is sent out, the more likely they're going to show it to more of your followers. So that's really important. We have a question here. How do we use hashtags? Because that's one of the last things on here is use hashtags. This way people can discover you. So you can kind of dig into this a little bit more, but at really high level, you can use up to 30 hashtags on an Instagram post. I suggest that you sit down and search different hashtags. So you could start with Made in Baltimore, you could start with the Be More Creatives, and look at those hashtags, look at other hashtags that people are using within that. Create a list, create categories. So I'm going to use, I don't know, pottery as an example. And so you want to make sure you have some creative ones, some maker ones. You want to make sure that if you're based in Baltimore, you have Baltimore hashtags, because there's hashtag MyBeMore as well. You want to make sure that you have some pottery specific hashtags. Go through those. You have to think of it from your customer's perspective. They might be looking through hashtags, they might be following hashtags. Which ones are they, your target audience, what hashtags are they using, and make it easy for them to find you. And as for like using, like I save them in a notes on my phone. So if I'm posting, just posting and not scheduling, I know I talked about scheduling posts, but if you're just posting, you can copy and paste, put them in there. If you're using a tool like Later, you can have saved captions in there and be able to save them in there. And then we have about 10 more minutes. I'm gonna start going through this a little bit more quickly. Create that online to in real life loop. So treat your Instagram or your Facebook like a business card. So if you meet someone on the spot, again, maybe not relevant right now, but in the future, we will see each other face to face again. Treat it like a business card. So being like, oh, like I'd love for you to follow me on Instagram, or put it on your packaging. Make sure that people are following you there, because it's just going to keep going back and forth of they meet you in real life, they might not buy your product immediately, they follow you, they're eventually going to buy a product, etc. Another thing for engaging and awareness is strategic partners and collaboration. So I'm not going to dig into that too much. We will have a workshop on that on the 7th. And before I move on, are there any other questions around engagement? Or if there's anyone who has something that's worked really well for them. All right, we're gonna keep moving on then. I think this is the last chunk of information that I wanna make sure that you guys have before we finish this up. So these are some social media tools that I use that are free and are wonderful. So graphic design, maybe you don't know how to use the Adobe suite. That's okay, you can still have beautiful design. So you can use Canva. I created this presentation in Canva. They have a million templates, they're beautiful, they're wonderful. I'm pretty sure they have a free account. They also have a pro account that you can use as well. There's different features. They have both desktop and mobile. So I highly recommend Canva. Another one is Unsplash. And so maybe you are not a photographer, or you don't have the budget to hire a photographer for everything. Unsplash is a great resource. Obviously, you're not gonna find pictures of your products on there. But if we're talking about that branded content where it's not always about your product, Unsplash is a great tool for quality stock photography. I used to turn my nose up to stock photography because I thought it was super cheesy and awful, and then I found Unsplash. And actually, a lot of the photos that I have in this presentation are from Unsplash. Next up is photo editing. So we talked about that visual identity, that consistency. How do you create that? Maybe you hired a photographer, but you're also taking photos yourself, or someone else in your company is taking photos. How do you create that consistency? And that's by editing every photo the same. So 2 apps that I really like are Prime and VSCO or VSCO. And so find a few filters that work for you, they match the style you're going for, and use them for every image that you post, so that when someone looks at your feed, especially from an Instagram perspective, since it's so visual, they look at it, they see that consistency, and consistency to them makes them believe that like you have it all put together and that this is what they can expect from your product. Planning, we talked about the importance of that. I don't have a specific call out here, but use a template. There's so many templates out there. There's so many free templates. that if Google Drive, Google Docs is your thing, you can find a template from there. You can find, if you like printing something out and writing it down, you can do that too. And then the last tool that I have for scheduling is, my personal favorite is Later. There's other ones, as mentioned, there was Hootsuite, there's Buffer, there's Planoly, but I lead with Instagram for my business because it's very visual, and that's where my target audience is. And so I use Later, and I use a free account, and you can do up to 30 posts for free. So it's wonderful. And so I think that is all the information I wanted to share with you guys. I want to use the last few minutes here to answer any questions. I also want to encourage anybody, if you just have something that this triggered an idea for you, or something that worked really well for you, it's likely going to work really well for somebody else. So I would encourage people to just ask questions or share what's working for them. We got one more question here. So Elizabeth, what is the current thinking on using the same set of hashtags? Yes, so this is an important topic because it is thought that if you use the exact same hashtags for every single post, then Instagram might block you, or like, I don't know, not show as many your posts to other people. That could be a myth, that could not be a myth. There's a lot of Instagram myths out there. But it is important to make sure that you use certain hashtags that are specific to your post. And so since we talked about having a variety of content, each post is going to be different. And so you want to make sure, like, maybe use a few of the same hashtags for each one. Use these general Baltimore ones, and Made in Baltimore, and the Be More Creatives and My Be More for every single post. But then you want to make sure, like, all right, we're going to use jewelry as an example. If it's a necklace, then you're going to use hashtags that might relate more to necklaces. If it's earrings, hashtags that relate more to earrings. So just have these different categories, and in Later is they have the saved captions, and I literally have different categories where I'm like, is this a food photo? Here are the foods, hashtags that I'm going to use, etc. All right, we have a question from Karen. I'm interested in learning about Facebook ads. Where could I go to learn about them? Yes, so we talked a lot today about more or like strategy and posting organic side, but there is a whole world of paid. And so that's often Facebook and Instagram is set up. They want you to pay money to reach more people. So that is something, again, those resources that I mentioned, whether it's Later or Planoly or Hootsuite or Buffer, so while they provide services that you can use to schedule, they provide a lot of good resources as well, just articles and blogs about any topic you could think about for social media. So I would recommend starting there. There's also people, like, it's not a service that I provide, but there are people that specifically, they do digital marketing, and Facebook ads is a portion of that. I want to thank you all for joining me today. I hope this was valuable for you all. I tried to scrunch a lot in, and I hope that it wasn't overwhelming. But you can also join me on Friday the 7th. We're going to be talking about partnerships and collaborations. So if you've ever been like, someone told you need to work with an influencer, this is a great one to come with. If you are like, I want to work with other companies, but I just don't know how to go about it, like a lot of people do styled shoots. How do you go about this? And this is a great space for giveaways and things like that. I have my Instagram here as well, so please do follow me on there. The other one is to Be More Creatives. Please, we're talking about hashtags. Please use your hashtag. That's how you can be featured on the Be More Creatives page, is by using the hashtag. But the beauty of that, what we find mostly, is that when people want to discover something, they just go through the hashtag. It's not what we're posting. They're going through the hashtag and finding you naturally. So have it on there. And if you're interested in doing any more branding work or social media strategy, like this got you thinking, but you want to do more together and need more of a one-on-one consult or some content creation, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much, Becky, and thank you everyone who participated in the workshop today. This was great and super informative. Becky, you did a fabulous job. Just thank you again to you and everyone who participated.